Power Women podcast. For your career and your life, no matter what business you're in.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Northern Power Women podcast. With me, Sam Walker, speaking to you from Arizona, where it's still 4 billion degrees despite being October. And of course, our great leader, Simone Roche in Liverpool, where it's still, about 2 degrees, even though it was that all over the summer as well.
Yeah, 14 degrees, probably something like that. But yeah, actually, to be honest, it's quite a balmy October. I don't mind saying, or maybe I'm just feeling totally balmy, or the world has gone balmy. I don't know, Sam. Something like that.
It's about to say, yeah, it's all just insane. Now, you have been at an online conference last week, weren't you, for the local Liverpool region, which had the most brilliant title for one of the sessions. Please explain.
Oh, do you know what? So it's something called the Good Business Festival. The precursor to this event was the International Festival for Business, of which we sort of, that was where like Northern Power Women was born, if you like, or the concept of Northern Power Women. Anyway, this year it's kind of reinvented itself as the Good Business Festival. And it's all about purposeful business. So it really resonated, and we're doing some work with them for Act 2, which is going to be in the new year. Mm-hmm. So this was Act 1 last week, and the brilliant thing was the opening video and the opening session was called WTF has happened, and it was, and I love the fact that it wasn't sort of the traditional, just say the same thing,
buttoned up, yeah,
not just recycling the same people. Obviously, it was virtual, but this is an event. We've talked about events in the events industry before. They've kind of gone round and round. They were going to go live, and then it changed. Then we've had to do more of a TV studio affair and whatever. But really great, really sort of the whole premise of this event was to really have the conversations, not to be afraid to have some of the difficult conversations, so it was never waste a crisis. COVID has created an opportunity we can't miss on this. And that was the big message about not wasting the moment. And Thomasina Myers, who is the co-founder of Oaxaca, sort of really great brand. She was a lexicon of sound bites, very much about talking in dark times. You've got to really look at what you're doing and what is your purpose, what gets you out of bed. Anything that encourages businesses to do the best has got to be a good thing, but very much around, more than ever, it's up to businesses to be the leader. So just some really great things that, was saying out there, highly quotable content that was going on in there. But yeah, it was good. It was, I'm not normally a great delegate, if I'm honest with you, because you're always, but I had it on the side of my desk for most of the day, and it was good. But actually, it was just great to hear different businesses. It was not having the suited environment that we're used to, and some kind of awkward conversations happening as well. Big brands represented, as well as some really good purposeful organisations as well. Right. So yeah, no, it was good. So I think you can go back and watch it. But yeah, it was the Good Business Festival, and Act 2 comes in March, God willing.
Well, quite. Yes, exactly. Who knows really what next year is going to bring? I think the further down the road we get, the more we realise, the less we know, in a way. Look, you've talked there about harnessing opportunities, and this is a time when, so many people have pivoted successfully. Look at this podcast. We were a monthly recorded live in a big event space podcast, and we pivoted to be a remotely recorded weekly podcast instead. But we do also have to really recognise that there are times that come in that are going to be incredibly difficult, and especially for young people, because there is a lot of concern about redundancies with young people.
Yeah, talking to one of my team as well last week, we were just checking in, and she's saying, this is happening now. 3 of my friends have just been made redundant, and she used the word which really resonated, which is just a real whispering. There's a real whispering of this happening that's only going to get louder. And there's, that real concern as to will you go next? And, how on earth do you find that next role? And I'm going to have to obviously compromise for doing something that I don't want to do. And, but a real sense of worry. We've obviously seen everything happening with the students as they've gone back to uni and stuff like that, being isolated and that. But this real whispering, and I'm definitely getting a sense of things coming close to home that maybe I was fortunate enough not to have around me in that first part of lockdown, but looking on social media and in WhatsApp groups and and deaths and people being infected and people struggling in different ways, whether through COVID, mental health. And I'm just finding it's coming a lot closer, which I think I absolutely expected this to be more impacted through the first part through the first lockdown, but really feeling like it's coming close to home. Everyone I speak to now, there's either a relative or an employee or something that this is massively impacted on, like whether it be redundancy, whether it be the virus, but life-changing stuff. And I think as the dark nights come in, I think this is now more than ever why that we have to kind of look out for each other and why we have to support each other, I think is massively important.
Extraordinary story that was on National Public Radio here in the States last week, NPR. And it was all to do with dentists. And so many dentists were being interviewed about the fact they're busier than ever during the pandemic. And you think, what? Why is a dentist so busy in the pandemic? Is it because people are working from home, so have the time to schedule in appointments when previously they maybe were too busy on a motorway or on a train commuting? No, the reason dentists are so busy is they are dealing with an unprecedented amount of broken teeth because people are literally gnashing and grinding their teeth with the stress of what we're all going through, that it's resulting in loads and loads of dental injuries. And I found that so telling. And it's these stories now, as you said, that are starting to come through and you go, goodness me, this is affecting us in so many more ways than we actually realise. So that I thought was incredible.
Well, that is interesting because in my days when I was in the Royal Navy, I subspecialised to be an air traffic controller, which always seems a bit ironic when you're in the Royal Navy air traffic. But I did. But, it is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. You say left or right at the wrong time and somebody dies, right? And I used to grind my teeth. And ultimately, a few years later, I ended up having to get an adult brace because I'd ground my teeth and my teeth had kind of moved. Gosh. And that all, so it's interesting. You don't think that that's what happens. And it was in my sleep that happened. But that's really interesting. Yeah. One of my, our good friends is a dentist, and he as well has said it's so busy, and the worry is the things that they're treating now, they're busy with emergencies. What's happening to all those people, like all of us, that aren't managing their mouth care, if you like, and their teeth care right now because it's not an emergency. They're going to become emergencies. But who'd have thought we'd be talking about dentistry on the Northern Power Women podcast? Good for your career and your life.
Absolutely.
And your smile.
I wanted to talk about unpaid work shifts because you were discussing there about young people and redundancies and how young people are particularly vulnerable to redundancy right now. And there was an interesting campaign that's been launched by a young woman from Glasgow called Ellen Reynolds. She's just 19 and she's begun this campaign to try and ban all unpaid work trials because I've heard this story, as I know you will have time and time again, about companies who take young people, and it's usually the service industry, waiting, waitressing, pot washing, bussing, that sort of thing in the service industry, hospitality industry, perhaps chambermaiding, that kind of story. And they say, we need to find out whether you're any good. So they say, come and do a full shift as your, quote, trial for this job. And so they get these young people in, they work 5, 6, 7, 8 hour full shift. They have to buy the uniform, as this young woman did. She had to buy a shirt and trousers that matched the uniform of this restaurant she was doing her shift in, worked 5 hours, did a full shift and a full day's work in terms of the sort of thing she was being asked to do. She wasn't shadowing, she was actually doing the job. And at the end they went, thanks very much, we'll let you know. And of course they're never here again. And then the next week they get 10 more young people in, and the week after that 10 more young people. And this is something I covered when I was on the BBC actually years ago, and it's still going on. And I just think this needs to stop. I mean, this young woman actually is very aware, and she said, look, I'm very lucky. I'm only relying on part-time work to support me while I study. But she said, and I've got the luxury, if I really need help, my mum and dad can help me out. She said, but other people don't have that luxury. They cannot afford to work time and time again for free. But at the same time, they can't turn down a potential job because they need the money. And it seems that some businesses, obviously not all, are taking advantage of young people in this way. So I'd love to hear from you. If your business does do these unpaid work trials, what is the reasoning behind that? I mean, how many times do you do it? Because young people might apply to business A, do an unpaid day. Next week, they apply to business B, an unpaid day. And by the end of a month, they've done 4 full days' work for no money. And it's just this churn that's going on. I want to know how big of an issue this is, essentially.
I think that's where you can check on the various websites on. Is it like Green Door? Is it Glassdoor? Or
Glassdoor,
I think it's
yeah.
one of Glassdoor. Sorry, not Green Door. That's Shakin' Stevens, isn't it? Just showing my age right there. But there is this balance, because we've had people volunteer for us over the years of Northern Power Women. But then obviously we're not a commercial kind of organisation in that respect. But even over this period where there was a scheme set up by a couple of guys in Leeds over lockdown called Furlontier, to take people who've been furloughed, getting paid by their employer to volunteer for causes and for campaigns. And we connected with quite a few people over the Furlontier scheme. And one day I just happened to get them all on a call, just to, in the way that we do, just to check in and be, just see how people are, because I think it is, like we just said, it's a really important thing just to keep checking in on the checkers, as we've talked about. And it occurred to me, or didn't occur, it became apparent that every single one of the 9 people on my Zoom screen in front of me had been made redundant or been laid off. And I'm like, oh, wow. But they were like, oh, we're still happy to. And I'm like, no, there's a real balance then, because you're getting into modern day slavery and you're doing a proper job. And I think the one thing I would say is, to those people who found themselves in a situation, don't feel trapped, as in you're trapped. There's good organisations out there. There are good organisations looking for good people. You've got businesses who, a bit like we were saying about this crisis, the pandemic, and some businesses are thriving, and some good businesses are growing and thriving, and they need people, but they don't always have the chance to find them. So seek them out. We've found 2 absolutely amazing young women over this period, Philly and Rasheen, skills I may never have found, they now are on contracts with us, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. So I feel blessed that we would never have found them. So I say if anyone, people who are getting made redundant or are being abused, I think is the word, then look out there, post out there, but ask for help as well.
Let's call it out. Yeah,
call it out, because there's good people out there who need your skills and talent, and this is a great time to find that skills and talent.
Do get in touch. Let us know your experiences, please. podcast@northernpowerwomen.com. Right, let's march on and get some life lessons, please, this week. Who's sharing their wisdom with us?
We have got Amy Littlefair this week, and this is someone who has absolutely experienced the whole redundancy drama and, sort of upset. So Amy is brilliant. Northeasterner, digital graphic designer, is just got some brilliant life lessons for her this week.
I'm Amy Littlefair and I work as a graphic designer. When have you taken a risk and what happened? During an interview for university, the lecturer asked me to explain what I thought the course was about. After hearing my explanation and career intentions, they advised me to take a similar degree which she thought would be better suited for the type of job I wanted. Only being the second person in my family to do a degree, I had little knowledge about university itself and few people to discuss my scenario with. At the time, changing from the course I had planned on doing felt like a big deal, but I'm so pleased I took the advice of the lecturers, as I absolutely love the creative field I work in. What difference did having a mentor make to you? My mentor made a massive difference, and I still now practice what I learned from 5 years ago. Cognitive behavioural therapy can be applied to lots of different situations in life, but at the time I focused on becoming more confident in the workplace. I found working in such a large head office pretty daunting, and often felt like all eyes were on me when I walked down the large office area or canteen. Of course, this wasn't actually the case, and I would have known this earlier if I hadn't been looking at the ground as much. My mentor helped me to work on eye contact and see that everyone was busy doing their own thing and weren't focusing on me, much to my relief. Tell us about a time you've had to be resilient. I've been faced with redundancy 3 times in the last 3.5 years, and each time it's become easier because I've learned to handle the situation, react quickly to find my next role, and most importantly, not take it personally. What's one piece of advice that has really stuck with you? I was told the phrase, don't worry about it until it happens, and it's still something I tell myself. We often imagine situations in advance to better prepare us, but more often than not, they plan out differently to how we'd ever imagined. Worrying only means you suffer twice. What advice would you pass on to someone starting their career today? I would pass on something I was told earlier in my career, and that was to change where you work every few years to get the most experience possible. Each new job is a chance to be challenged, an opportunity to learn new things, and a great way to make new friends.
Thank you so much, Amy. Do you know what, Simone? You mentioned at the start about her experiences with redundancy, and I love her attitude there. She's like, it gets easier. 3 times. 3 times. It gets easier every time. And that's what resilience is. It is almost a muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. So we're all facing knocks. We're all facing really difficult times. But remember, we're building resilience. I think that's a really important lesson we can all take from this. So thank you so much, Amy. And we'd love to hear from you. Now, you might be listening to that thinking, well, what have I got to say? What lessons could I share? Don't let that imposter syndrome jump into your brain. Get in touch with us. Send us an email, please. podcast@northernpowerwomen.com. We'll do the rest. We'll tell you exactly how you can get involved. And please know you do have something to say and your voice really does need to be heard. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you. Talking of emails, Simone. The unsolicited email. Now, I'm going to choose my words a bit carefully here because I really don't want to come across as a grumpy old sod. And I understand that people are trying to grow their businesses and reach out and find new clients in really difficult times. But let me paint you the picture. Dear Sam at What Goes On Media, we specialise in LED lighting for offices, or we specialise in special automated sales bots, or we specialise in special modular office furniture. Please can we arrange a time for us to talk through our products with you so that we can maybe put a quote together for your company? Now, I'm crazy busy, so I ignore that email because it's not relevant to me. I've got a company where everyone works remotely. We're all over the world. We don't need LED lighting, modular furniture, or a sales bot, okay? So that I'm just like, okay, I didn't ask for this email, so I'm going to ignore it. Week or so later, hi Sam, I haven't heard back from you. Please, can you get in touch and let me know when there's going to be a good time? We can put something in the diary for us to discuss this. Thank you so much. I also delete that because I didn't ask for this email in the first place, so I don't have the time to start writing replies to everyone. Thank you very much indeed. Week later, I still haven't had a response from you. Please, can you do me the courtesy of replying to my request? And on it goes. And I've had 4 or 5 from some of these companies, and they're getting increasingly peed off with me for not replying to them. I didn't ask for this in the first place. And what is happening? Why are people getting angry that I'm not replying to a request I never asked for in the first place? It's happening more and more and more.
It is. And actually, before there was a brilliant TED talk around unsolicited email, a guy called James Veitch, a comedian, and he'd responded to one of these that was a bit like, you have got 50,000 in gold doubloons coming your way. We only need the following information. So you can see those. You can see those a mile off. And
yes.
But I found these are getting... because normally you can tell by the subject, can't you? Or by that opening line or whatever. But they've got clever, I think. They seem to have put empathy into the start of it. So you can look at it and you won't dismiss it immediately or delete it immediately. And then you kind of look at it, oh gosh, no, it's a salesy one. I'm not. But I've had exactly the same where I've gone really persistent. It's like old school kind of
Hard
cold calling.
sell. Yeah, it's hard sell.
But again, with that sort of little bit of, well, obviously you've been very busy, as are we. But we've only got a limited time, and you're like, but I don't know who we is, and the thing is that there's something I think though in the way it's written that instead of just doing as you would normally do and delete, you're not going to kind of respond to it in a positive way, but. I don't know, I've left them floating a bit because I feel like I want to craft something back, which is crazy, and I don't know why.
Exactly, and it's a waste of everyone's time. And actually, if you'd done your research, you'd look at the company and realise there's no office address on there. There aren't any offices. We don't have a suite in the central London or central Manchester or Liverpool. We're all working from home because that's what we do. So it's really bizarre, but it's this growing indignation across multiple emails that how dare I be so rude as not to respond? And I'm like, but I don't want your LED lighting and I have no use for it. And actually, you're invading my inbox, so bugger off.
Maybe just do the James H approach and say, yes, I would like 1 million, but only if you can deliver by Thursday. Thank you. The end.
That's it. I'm writing my replies now. It's fabulous stuff. Do let us know as well how you have dealt with unsolicited emails that just are very, very, very persistent in your inbox. podcast@northernpowerwomen.com. Fabulous stuff. Well, look, there we go for another week. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget, please, the next podcast is on the way for you on Monday, the 19th of October. And it is Simone going solo, but we will say no more about that now. Thank you so much. Until then, have a fantastic week. This is the Northern Power Women podcast. I'm Sam Walker. She is Simone Roche. And the Northern Power Women podcast is a What Goes On media production. Whoa.